Hi everyone, it's Elizabeth here. So I wanted to do this relationship video in regards to 10 of the worst things that you can do during and or after a breakup. So a breakup or divorce of any kind is difficult to deal with. And when you are experiencing some form of a breakup, especially if it's kind of a sudden breakup or just the relationship was toxic in general, there needs to be some time to find yourself, to ground yourself, analyze the situation, and to heal. And a lot of people don't tend to do that. I'm going to do a separate video in regards to some of kind of the key things that you should do during a breakup, after a breakup as well. So a lot of people today, we are so addicted to emotional highs, and we're not really able to cope with a lot of things today in this digital age because we're constantly seeking approval or affections of some kind through social media and through other people. In addition, I do believe we have entered a time of society where we have kind of this quote unquote spiritual war happening, to where our souls are lost and we have absolutely no connection to the divine or to God, and we're seeking approval and seeking light and love through basically the material world and through other people, which, if you've followed the trends of humanity, humans are very flawed and corruptible creatures. And so it takes a lot of consciousness and awareness and a connection to the divine to kind of help us overcome our struggles in life, and to seek fulfillment spiritually through God and love, and not necessarily through just material plain things. So when you've gone through a breakup, most people don't realize this, but you are flying by the seat of your emotions. And so your emotions are all over the place. They are high and low. And, if you've read the news, you've seen people who've done certain things, during or after a divorce, or just, to the worst stuff where, like, people want to murder their partner just because they're completely blinded by emotions that they either don't want to see them to live with somebody else, or they just want to seek revenge and certain things. So you have to really come to a point of grounding your emotions. And when you are constantly flying by the seat of your emotions, a lot of people tend to make some really bad choices. So I'm just going to start to go down the list of what I have as some of the worst things that you can do during a breakup. One is to seek instant gratification, specifically because you're flying by the seat of your emotions and you're constantly seeking either an emotional high or an ego boost. The thing that you need to understand is that there is science behind there's science to understanding what happens to us physiologically during and after a breakup. When you are in love, and or you're getting to meet somebody and you're getting a text message from them, you're getting hit with dopamine and kind of those feel-good hormones in your brain. So when you are in love, you're going through a different hormonal flow as compared to when you are falling out of love or you're in a breakup. And what is happening during a breakup is that you are not getting hit with those those transmitters that are hitting you with dopamine and all those happy hormones. And basically what you're doing is you're kind of going through a withdrawal. And when you are going through a withdrawal, like you're a drug or an alcohol addict, you tend to not really think clearly, and things are really shifted in your body. And so a lot of times people are letting their emotions run them forward. And so when you're trying to seek instant gratification, one way a lot of people do this is that they instantly download a dating app so they can seek approval or get attention from obviously people of the opposite gender. I'm just talking in terms of being heterosexual, being flirtatious online or seeking a hookup just to make themselves feel validated and feel wanted by somebody who finds them attractive. I really don't think dating or downloading a dating app is any form of resolution. I think it actually makes things worse. I have a client who has a friend who went through a divorce, and the client was telling me that her friend needed to have a man or needed to seek approval from men to make herself feel wanted, that she downloaded the dating app and she had all of these horrible experiences, like getting ghosted and gaslighted and all this stuff. And it actually messed her up and made her feel worse than just the divorce did in general. So that's trying to tell you something. Like when you're trying to seek these little instant hits of feeling loved or sexy or something like that, it actually is going to backfire, and eventually it's going to become this negative vicious cycle to where it's like once you get ghosted, you're going to try to seek approval from the next person, and it becomes very desperate energy, and a lot of people can feel that. I think another thing that is like one of the worst things you can do is to start really going with like the party culture in terms of drinking or doing drugs or just being promiscuous in general. I think a lot of times people are seeking some form of validation through rebounding. I think this is really unhealthy. I think it's really toxic. When you are going through a breakup, your ego is hurt, your soul is crushed, and you're not in a healthy frame of mind. And when you start doing these things, it's going to start to decrease your frequency level. So especially once you start chronically drinking, it's different if you're just going out with a friend and having a beer or a glass of wine, whatever that happens, or you're just so bloody frustrated with something like you just have an alcoholic drink, like that stuff happens. But when it's like you're constantly feeding yourself through wanting to have fun or drink away the pain or just saying fuck it and you want to escape, and then you're doing drugs or drinking or just sleeping around with a bunch of people, this is the gateway for a lot of dark energy and a lot of dark forces to latch onto you to constantly continue to bring you down. You're already at a lower vibration by having no self-love or self-worth, a low self-esteem. And then these negative entities can really come and play a role in your life because you're going to start attracting other people who are on your same frequency level. So you might start attracting people who are alcoholics, or if you're sleeping around, they're obviously not going to be that quality of a person, especially if you're meeting them from a bar. I'm sorry, but like there are exceptions and outliers, but not many people in this planet meet quality human beings at a bar. Another thing that you can do, that is one of the worst things that you can do, is to keep an emotional and or a sexual connection with your ex. When I went through my divorce, I wanted to be friends, and the reality was my ex cut me out of his life. It was really drastic. There was really no like weaning off. It was just like I was in the life and then I was out, and that was really difficult for me to handle with. So I do think some form of like a regression, like a slow exiting is probably healthy for a lot of people, but most people cannot maintain an emotional connection, especially if you've been divorced, because it gives you a sense of kind of false hope, like this could happen again, and it probably won't. And the thing is, everybody needs to move on and they need to heal. And somebody who left you, if they're running to you for emotional support, that should be a massive red flag, because they're just using you as your little teddy bear and they don't want to be with you. Meanwhile, they're doing whatever shit on the side with people, out in the real world. So don't let yourself be used or abused, or don't give yourself this false hope that things can happen by maintaining an emotional connection. Most people nowadays need to just cut the cord and move forward. So the fourth thing is to pretend to be okay. Most people aren't okay when they go through a breakup and, trying to put on this facade like I'm a strong, independent person and I'm going to do this. Like, to some degree you have to pull your shit together to kind of survive at work and stuff like that. But it's okay to be vulnerable and to say that you're not okay and that you need time to heal and you need time to think, you need time to process. Or if you try to date again in the future and all these wounds are starting to come up and you realize that you need healing, there's nothing wrong with that. So it's okay to not be okay. You just don't want to not be okay for a really long, extensive amount of time, because you'll never pull yourself out of that ditch that you're in, basically. Another thing is to take 100% of the blame. My God, I did this a lot. Women do this more than men. A lot of men are great at blaming women for everything, but nobody is 100% to blame. There are some situations, such as abuse or things like that, where a person is more to blame or maybe kind of 100% to blame. But it takes two people to tango, and both people have their own psychological perceptions and perspectives in life. And it's not okay, I don't think, to take 100% of the blame for the situation. If you were blindsided by a breakup and you had no clue the other person was suffering inside, that shits on that other person too, because they didn't communicate or express it, and you are not a mind reader, so you can't figure that out. Another thing that you should not do, one of the worst things you could do during a breakup, is abuse your body. Abusing your body in so many different ways. This goes through a lot of like the drinking, the drugs, having promiscuous sex and things like that. But there's other ways to abuse your body. It's just by being gluttonous and eating a bunch of junk food. It's by, putting yourself through like 6 hours of working out a day. Those are not healthy. You have to have some form of healthy boundaries in your life to be able to give yourself the time to heal and to process. And abusing your body can even, be on quote unquote healthy things. Like some people just want to like live off of water for 21 days, and maybe that's really good for you and a good spiritual cleanse, but the reality is it might not be good at that point in time. So you can abuse your body in various ends of the spectrum of like going too ultra healthy, or to the other end of the spectrum, which is just through negative choices like eating, drugs, sex, things like that. So this next one, I think we all do it: seeking validation or using Facebook as a counselor or to get an ego boost. So, our self-worth a lot, especially with the millennial generation, it's no secret. People want to be liked. They want to be liked online, and online is a lot of this facade and this mask type of a life that we live, which is not showing, the deeper sides of us. So when you kind of live this world of like, oh, I'm perfect, and look, I did this weekend, and I did that, and, I hiked like 20 miles in 2 days, that's like, you're showing like the best of yourself. You're showing your achievements. You're not really showing like the worst of yourself. Now, this does happen online, but a lot of people, the reality is Facebook, I believe, is like the new psychologist, and a lot of people do seek validation through social media. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying it can become an addictive thing, especially if you're constantly posting a lot of these like why me type of situations online. People want to be liked, and I just think that you should get real counseling and not just try to seek these, momentary positions of praise from people online, because I think the connection has to be within yourself and with God to seek your own self-love and validation, rather than it coming from the external world or from the people from your business Facebook page and stuff like that. Another horrible thing you can do when you're breaking up is to rush into a relationship and or to go into rebounds. This is where your emotions are driving you. You have a hole in yourself, in your heart, that needs to be fulfilled, and you are not going to fill that with another person because you don't know that other person as well, especially if you've only known them for 2 hours in a bar or 2 weeks off of Tinder. You don't know these people. It takes a long time to get to know people, and just to fulfill yourself and to fulfill your spirit and your ego through these type of tools and methods is not wise, and it's also not healthy for the other person. So I don't think it's fair, just because you're suffering because of a breakup, it's to manipulate or deceive, especially if you're not upfront, is to manipulate and deceive another person into thinking that, you're in this like great part of your life and stuff like that, and you're just basically using the other person for your own personal gain of feeling better. The other thing, when, especially not all breakups are platonic, mutual, easy ones. A lot of them are really hard. They're toxic, and or especially if you find out that the other person's been cheating or have been seeing somebody else or somebody left you for somebody else. But my God, the number one thing you cannot do is seek revenge or to want revenge. The biggest lesson on this planet is to learn how to give and receive love. And that also includes forgiveness of yourself and forgiveness of another person. There have been moments during like the initial stage of my divorce, let's say like 1 to 2 months, where I was so irate that it's like there was like a little piece of me that wanted, like, for them to feel the same pain that I do, but it's like the grounded spiritual part of me, the spiritual backbone was like, that's not the way. This is happening for you, but not to you. So there was a lot of grounding that had to happen, but to forgive him, but to also forgive myself, because there was so much lack of communication, and just to bless and forgive and to move on, to start to healing. A lot of people, you see this with women, they want revenge, so they go out and get sexy and all this shit, and then they post these pictures online. Or on the other, abusive, and or they want revenge on women by harming them, whether that's their specific ex-girlfriend, or they want to start harming other women because of shit that happened because of their other girlfriend. It's like, we don't live in a reality television. Like, reality TV is a fantasy, and not all that is actually real. A lot of it is staged and set up. So, you can't live your life like a reality TV, and that's where a lot of people do try to use Facebook and social media like it's reality television for them. But that's just not how it works. So you have to find your own form of forgiveness. And my God, do not seek revenge. That is it's like the pagan shit, like the Romans, the Greeks. God, I'm sure the Catholics did, because they're not even like the true form of Christianity. The Vikings, all of them wanted to seek revenge on people, and look where it left. We are at a point of humanity where we're mildly civilized, but that civilized culture of us is starting to break down. And so the more anger and rage that comes out in people, the worse off humanity will be. So the best thing to do in that situation is to ground yourself, forgive them, bless them, and you know what? If they're completely damaged humans and they're running off with some shithead that, is obviously not a quality individual, that's their problem that they have to work out. It's not your issue. And you have to realize that that person's soul is suffering so bad inside that all they need is a beacon of light in their life. And that light can come from you through forgiveness and through sending them love and a blessing. So these are some thoughts that I have in terms of some of the worst things that you can do after an initial breakup. I've seen this through my clients. I've seen it with my friends. I really don't think just flying through life trying to seek the next high is going to help you. I think it does more damage than good, because eventually it becomes a negative cycle where it's like, well, that high didn't work, so you're seeking the next high. It's like a drug and an alcohol, or it's like a drug addict and an alcoholic, but you're seeking it through emotional highs of love to fulfill yourself. So you have a gap in your heart and in your soul and in your self-worth, and self-love is going to be really helpful. I have some other YouTube videos down below that are in terms of in the topics of forgiveness and self-love. I'm also going to do another video in regards to some of the things that you should do after a breakup. So thank you guys so much. Thank you for liking, sharing, and subscribing. Please subscribe below. You can help me build this channel. You can also support me on Patreon.